Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to share some thoughts and theories about Pennyworth. This is going to involve me talking about some spoilers from Season 2. So if you have not seen Season 2's finale of Pennyworth, do not watch this because I don't want to spoil things for you. But really quickly, we're talking about the baby situation at the end of the season. I'm going to say, because people in the comments had to point it out, because apparently I completely missed the line when the nurse says, "Oh, it's a girl." I completely missed that line. I don't know how, I just happened to do that. So, but like I said, I have been corrected on that. But subsequently, since I have kind of got more, thoughts and, theories in my head about what that potentially means. I think I did say something in the veins of it'd be interesting if this child wasn't Bruce Wayne and necessarily what that would mean later on. That'd be kind of interesting, and it turns out that's the case. So some of my initial thoughts are, one, this might be implying that, hey, there might not be a Bruce Wayne in this continuity. It's crazy and weird to say, but that could be a possibility. Their daughter could be the one that eventually becomes Batman. It also depends on the timeline and stuff like that. Because even the TV show Gotham was set in like a very ambiguous era time frame, so you never know for fully how old Batman is in certain continuity, and what time frame and year it takes. It's a whole thing, because even like the Batman, the Matt Reeves movie is supposed to take place in the 90s, and that's him probably in like his 30s maybe. Like I said, it's a whole thing. So this being like the late 60s, you don't know what that necessarily could mean anyway. So this could just be like hey, there's no Bruce Wayne in this continuity. The Thomas and Martha's daughter becomes Batman in his continuity. Maybe, maybe not. Because these adaptations can kind of do whatever they want to. Because I think someone had hit me up and saying they thought it was a mistake because they know Bruce has like a long lost brother on I think Earth 32 is what they said. But I pointed out that, stuff like Arrow, for example, kind of does its own thing where it's like in the show, he has a daughter named Mia Queen who becomes the Green Arrow, but she's not a character from the comics, because typically it's his son Connor Hawke that ends up becoming the Green Arrow in the comic books. But Connor exists in the continuity, but it's not his son. He has a son named William. Connor is technically, Diggle and Lila's kid, but he's actually Michael J. White's character. His son is Connor, so that Arrow once again kind of just did its own thing with a lot of those continuities. But regardless, obviously that's different from what it was beforehand, because if you remember Legends of Tomorrow 2049, it was different circumstances where the name Connor Hawke came up. It's a whole thing, not going to get into it right now, but, so like I said, we could just have a situation where it's like, hey, their daughter becomes Batman. The other thought that comes across my mind is that this could be someone who challenges Bruce's legitimacy to the Wayne fortune and enterprise. That could be something that comes up later on in this continuity where they have their long lost daughter, for whatever reason, whether or not whether that's kind of suggesting maybe something happens and they end up having Bruce, and maybe they thought their daughter was dead, but she's been alive the entire time, and she comes out of the woodworks years into maybe Bruce being older, running Wayne Enterprise, whether he's Batman at the time or not, and have a sister come up and be like, "Oh, I'm your sister, and me being the older sibling, I have more rights to this than you do," so this person could try and take Wayne Enterprise from him. That could be a whole thing. I mean, it'd be even more interesting if you end up having this sibling come out of nowhere who resents Thomas and Martha because of "Oh, I was lost, I was forgotten, and because of that, I'm coming after you. I want to destroy the Wayne Enterprise. I want to destroy everything Wayne related," so he could end up having an adversary who is his long lost sister. Once again, completely kind of pitching that out there as a potential possibility. But it could also just be this is me kind of on the more negative side of things. It could just simply be hey, he has an older sister who is maybe maybe it's only his mom and dad that died, but it's oh, he has a sister who's alive, and maybe in this continuity it's his sister has no idea that he's Batman. It could be that she runs Wayne Enterprise, and for him it's oh, he's just doing his Batman thing from time to time. I don't know. It depends on whether because obviously a big part of Batman's story is the tragedy, and I think either angle of making her the long lost sister coming to destroy the Wayne Enterprise, or still losing their parents could be a tragedy that, hey, affects him in certain ways, but maybe it could affect his sibling in a certain way. I mean, hell, there's the whole Flashpoint thing when Bruce dies, Thomas becomes Batman, and it hints to, at least based on the movie, I don't know if this is the same thing in the comic book, but in the Justice League Flashpoint Paradox movie, it's implying that his mom, Martha, becomes the Joker of that continuity. So you never know. Like, it could just be a thing of these two siblings ended up having the murder of their parents affected in vastly different ways. I mean, Bruce in his own right is severely screwed up. Like, it's not like Batman's the most well-adjusted human being. So same thing could be applied to, you know, his sister. So a lot of different angles of like how that potentially work. You'd kind of, you know, like I said, I think it'd be interesting if it was, you know, if you want to be a little more positive, like I said, make it so that he's doing his secret Batman thing and she's just kind of running Wayne Enterprises, having no idea what he's up to. That could be interesting. Or maybe she becomes like, well, Lucius Fox exists in this continuity, but she could be someone of that nature of like, oh, helping out, like I said. But then there's also, well, another tragic thing is something could happen to her. And this in itself could be a triggering point for Thomas and Martha later on in their stories in this continuity. Because there have been stories where the Waynes have gotten up to some shady, super shady stuff in Gotham. So maybe something happening to their daughter could potentially have set them down that path. Like I said, that's actually getting like super dark and tragic. Like, other ones have been dark and tragic, but that could be like a more extreme dark and tragic. I don't know if they'd necessarily go that route, down that route. This opens up a lot of different possibilities. It just comes down ultimately with what they want to do. So, like I said, like I brought up earlier, someone had brought reference like a brother on Earth 32 of like, oh, long lost brother, but I don't know, or I don't even know if they said long lost brother. It could just be like, oh, a brother in general, but it's like, what are those circumstances like on that Earth? You know, what does that mean for Bruce's story? And if that's the case, you can probably extrapolate some of the stuff from that story and kind of apply it to this situation. Because it also depends on, I don't know if they said it was like an older brother or just they said brother. So having an older sibling, you know, what that necessarily means, so many different possibilities. But obviously, these are just some of my thoughts and theories. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. What does this baby situation mean to you? Like, what are some of your thoughts and theories? Do you agree with some of the stuff I brought up? Do you completely disagree? I'd love to know what you're thinking. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good